This week's episode is brought to you by Blue Harvest Vintage. Are you a collector? Blue Harvest love to help you find that missing piece you need to complete your collection. They have extensive stock of vintage Star Wars vehicles and mint-on-card action figures, as well as new The Force Awakens and Black Series items. Blue Harvest have Funko Pops, Lego, Dinky, Corgi, Matchbox and more. Everything a collector could possibly need. If they don't stock it, then let them know, and their knowledgeable staff will be only too pleased to help. Head to Morley Market in Leeds to see the life-size Darth Vader. Alternatively, reach out to Blue Harvest on Twitter at Blue Harvest UK, Facebook, Blue Harvest Vintage Collectibles, a website, blueharvestvintage.co.uk, or email at blueharvesttoys@gmail.com.
Talk Star Wars is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Follow at SW Commonwealth on Twitter and take your first steps into a larger world. This is Talk Star Wars, the official podcast at talkstarwars.co.uk. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Paul.
And we're back
Look
with
at that, nailed
episode
it this
42. Time. We nailed it.
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it.
Draw attention to the nailing of the thing.
Stay breezy.
We probably nailed it because there's no Steve this week.
Excuse me.
Seems hardly fair.
Yeah, we've
almost slander.
We've had some issues.
I mean, not undeserved.
We've had some technical issues, but finally we are up and running.
Steve is a technical issue.
Unfortunately, this week it seems to be the source of them.
Mm-hmm. The problem is he was clothed. And he
I think. Do you know what it was? That probably was it. You know, he's probably wearing ionically charged clothing that's just messing with his mic.
He's got one sock on and the static charge was enough.
If you know what we mean.
Let's not follow that train of thought. Yeah. How's your week's been, gentlemen? Everything good? Everyone well?
Top-notch average, mate.
Relatively good. You know, I mean, I've been trying to keep busy this week because I've been finding myself getting a bit downbeat when I feel like I haven't done enough.
At work or on your projects?
No, just at home mainly. So to give you a bit of background, obviously anybody who's listening to the most recent Tumbling Saber will know that me and James have started working on our fun little project, which I won't give too much detail about it now, but I've been writing a lot, but I've not been able to have a chance to actually sit down and record stuff. So I tried to sit down and record the other day, and I was practicing what I was going to do, and over again. And I finally felt like I got it nailed down to the point where I could have a go, and I didn't have the flat to myself anymore, just as I was about to hit record. And unfortunately, it's a particular type of recording that Jen doesn't want to be around when I do.
Yeah. That happens.
She described it as cringe central. I think something to that effect.
Well, I've done.
To be fair, it's very it's a little uncomfortable for me, so I can only imagine what she's feeling.
I did a bit of audio recording myself here for the drop-ins. There's a couple of new drop-ins in the show. Cool. There's the shout out to the Commonwealth, and then there's the VIP invite, and I had to do that on my own, and I'm fine when we're in a group doing this thing.
Yeah,
but recording on my own is profoundly unnatural.
I have the same problem. I can be incredibly. Most recent E14 podcast, I had to record a custom intro and outro for the recording just to explain what was happening, and then at the end to kind of round it up and explain why it didn't carry on. And that took me about a dozen goes.
Yeah,
just because every time I started, I would flub and I would stop and I'd curse at myself and I'd have to start again.
Very difficult.
YouTube videos can be like that too. I'm like Juggernaut from the X-Men. Once I get going, I'm fine. But it's that first.
It's the getting going of it all.
Getting myself going is the bit I struggle with. Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing that. I kept tripping over it in the night to give myself the Irving Kershner direction in Empire when he said to Harrison Ford, it was that line, the "I love you, I know." He said to him, "Don't think about it, just do it." And that's when you got that little pearl of wisdom. And that's what
I thought you were going to say. You gave yourself an Irving Kershner and said, "Tell George if he comes by to piss off."
Yeah, what does he know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He just created the thing. Yeah. These things are easier to do sometimes when you don't think about it. I think, but there you
go. I think that's absolutely true. I think that's
Okay, let's jump into this then, because we got a couple of announcement bits and pieces to tackle, but it's been a particularly quiet week this week, so we haven't really had an awful lot of activity on the social networks, and we've only got one review. But the announcement section is shaped thusly. A quick reminder that our sponsors, Blue Harvest Vintage, are offering a 10% discount to customers when they mention TSW. So you'd have heard at the top of the show everything that everything they do and where they can be found. So look into them. They're great people, Mark and Debbie, and tell them we sent you, and you could save yourself a considerable amount of money considering what they sell there.
Yeah.
Okay. As I mentioned before, it has been a very quiet week on all fronts, and we've just had one Facebook like this week from a gentleman in Libya, a teacher.
Wow.
Libya. Isn't that mental?
Isn't it? It's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing.
Nothing short of amazing. It never ceases to amaze.
And last week Australia, this week Libya. But my apologies.
Tomorrow the world.
Yeah. My apologies to you, sir, because I've been trying very hard to translate your name into English so that I could mention you on the show. But unfortunately, I haven't been successful. Facebook don't give me that facility. Every other translate app has failed. So my apologies, but your joining us is greatly appreciated.
Yes.
We also got a message. I was hoping Steve would be on the show for this, but we got a message from Matt Keegan this week. Matt is the train driver from Australia we spoke about last week. Yes. Amazing guy. So he sent a message to me via YouTube saying he'd been listening to the show and he really liked Steve's Matt Damoning his name.
Oh, I did catch that.
Matt
when I
Keegan.
back to it, yeah.
That's it, yeah, Matt Keegan all the way through the show. So that took it in pink. Now, I've also had communication with Matt this week because he sent us a question. It is possibly the deepest Star Wars question we've had so far.
In the show notes, or have you held it back?
Rolled it over to next week because it only came in today.
Oh, okay.
I've rolled 3 questions over to next week because the show notes were getting a little bit chubby this week. So I thought we'll roll them over and I'll forward it out to you guys so you'll have time to do a bit of research because I think he's challenging Nathan One Kenobi for his position as a deep question asking. So,
not actively challenging him, just
no.
He's going to try. He's going to do similar kind of quality.
Yeah, he's going to try like you did with Jeremy. You know, when you rocked up and we had to fire Jeremy.
We didn't have to fire Jeremy.
A little behind. No, we didn't have to.
It just became clear that there could be only one.
Jeremy's going to be listening to this thinking, "Why are you on a shaking his fist in here?"
Yo, Jeremy, I'd love to be on with you. I've never had the chance, never had the pleasure.
Yeah, I do. I keep inviting Jeremy on, and there will be an opportunity, I think, when
one day
stars will align, schedules will link up, and we can all get back together again. Yeah, or Rogue 2 at some point. Reviews. This is something I've been very excited about this week. So last week I mentioned that there was a review, and I know, Rob, you sent it to me via Podrover this week, didn't you?
Public service, yes.
But I'd been looking out for this one. This is a review from a gentleman who goes by the handle The Real Pod Vader. This guy's name is Jay Soderbergh.
Ah, yes, I know that name.
You will be hearing a lot more about Jay and the outlet that he represents in the future. There is an announcement coming. But for now, we've got a 5-star review from Jay.
Cool.
And it goes something like this.
Very nice indeed.
Always looking for Star Wars podcasts to listen to, and the force is strong with this one. Yes, a lot of Star Wars puns, but what do you expect from the guy who's called Pod Vader? Great stuff, guys. Now, this is where he's taken advantage of the Ron Burgundy guarantee. If you like American football, give the Next Fan Up podcast a listen. We've got some fellow countrymen on our show representing their favourite teams. It's the view of all 32 NFL teams from the perspective of the person who knows the best, the fan. So that's the way you do it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Ron Burgundy challenge being utilised to its full effect. So, yeah, Jay, or the Real Pod Vader, thank you very much for that. And
yes, thank you, Jay.
Watch this.
They seriously got 32 guys on the cast at the same time.
I think possibly on a rolling roster.
Brilliant.
I would have
Seriously,
thought.
brilliant.
Is each show like 16 hours long?
We got 3.
eight hours a week of podcasting. They do 4 guys per show. That's what it is.
Yeah,
each one plays each other twice or something. I don't know how.
We've got 4 hosts, and it takes an hour to get the show rolling.
They're sitting on trains getting force fed as they go.
I'm not sure how the NFL works. So I don't know.
I love the NFL. I'm a big fan.
I kind of enjoy watching bits of it, and I have the Madden games and I play those. But I know the basic rules, which I think is probably better than your average.
I'm a Miami guy, and I watch the guys every week.
They get like The
I
last
don't want
time.
to talk about it this week, so let's
That
move
answers
along.
my
I
question.
can't. I can't stand NFL. Let's move along.
I went to the Super Bowl years and years ago,
wow.
or one of the. There was one in London, and it was. I'm trying to remember.
Oh
what it
yeah,
was.
I remember that one.
It was.
Isn't it the Pats and somebody?
No. This was. I mean, a long time ago, Rob. When you were.
This is
when you were
a
a
long
wee.
time.
When you were a wee bairn.
Right.
I can't think who it was that was playing now.
Many moons ago, I remember Minnesota coming over.
No,
Miami came over. I think LA came over.
Yeah, Miami.
But-
No.
There's somebody screaming at us through the thing at the moment.
Yeah, there will be. This would have been in about 1991.
Okay,
Whoever played,
wow.
and it was at Wembley Stadium, and I went up, and the atmosphere was absolutely
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
amazing. It was electric, and there were people in the crowd that people had bought food and they didn't want it anymore. So this guy turned around and said, "I bought this, but I don't care for it." American guy. I don't care for it anymore. Would you like it? I thought,
I don't care for it.
I'm a Brit, so my first interest is to tell you where to go, and my second my second instinct is to follow it up with a swear word of some variety. Maybe that's an after dark side story. No, I really enjoyed it. I loved the game
You took
itself.
them up on the food then?
No, I didn't.
Oh, well.
No, I didn't enjoy that.
Okay.
No, it was good. It was a
Apologies,
good
I
show.
misunderstood.
American football is a good show, but the game itself is laborious, I think.
Okay.
In what way? All
Just-
games are laborious
just
some
slow.
way.
It
or
Quite,
another,
it
aren't
can be. It's quite disjointed, isn't it? Because it's got the
Very,
stop
very
start.
slow. Yeah, it's like
That's just the commercial aspect, unfortunately.
yeah.
Yes, there is that. America's got that in spades, doesn't it? 'Cause, I mean, I remember when I was in the Philippines on holiday, and we were watching TV, and everything syndicated American shows there, and the ad breaks are just so massive. There's just so many of them.
Yeah.
It seems like it goes on.
You get one halfway through the end credits.
Yeah, it's just like
And it's like the ad stops, and then director comes up. End of show.
yeah, we've been back for 2 minutes, and now it's time for another commercial. It's like, come on, really?
There's going to be commercials midway through commercials soon. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to a commercial very
This
shortly.
commercial was brought to you by.
We're going to be having an
And
ad
this
break.
rant about commercialism was brought to you by the fine gentlemen at Tumbling Safe. who are probably some of the
because
people
they-
who are just like, ugh.
They would wrap
listening to
their
us talk
ad
about
and
NFL.
make
They
it more
would wrap their
entertaining.
ads, it's great.
All right, let's jump
Yeah,
into some listener comms, shall we? So I put my raised bloodline theory out last week,
Yes.
and it hit Tumblr. And I had this comment left on the post on Tumblr, which actually threw something into focus for me that I hadn't really considered. So there's a really good point well made here. So this is a comment from somebody named The Third. I love how bold this theory is, but the only issue is both Ezra and Sabine are coded as not white-skinned. He used another descriptor, but I didn't understand it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's unlikely that Sabine is Obi-Wan and Satine's kid, since she's more likely she'd be more likely to look like either of them than look the way she does. Plus, Rey looks more like Satine and Obi-Wan than anyone of the Rebels crew. It was a really good point, because I do remember now somebody saying that none of the Rebels cast of characters are white, which is fine. But I think we've kind of been down this route before in Star Wars, haven't we? With Leia believing she was the child of Organa. And there's an ethnic disparity there of some sort, isn't there?
Yeah.
So we kind of wandered into that arena previously. But that was...
Was there a diversion there prior to casting?
In Star Wars?
Was it Bail Organa? Yeah.
No, I don't know if there was any thought put into that, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know if it was done intentionally. Oh, I see, Rob. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
That's all right.
Yeah, I don't really know if this. We've played fast and loose with these details in Star Wars previously, so I don't know if we have to discard everything from my theory. And obviously, I want my theory to work. This is why I don't read. This is why I don't read the chat as we're going, because it will distract me. Shall we jump on to Corey's question? Paul, would you like to take Corey's question this week?
From Corey, yes. Hi, Corey. Right. Good day, boys. Had a quick question for you. Nothing mind-blowing, but I have not seen too many questions on this matter as of yet in regards to Rebels. Do you think we will find out or see how and where Ezra gets his new lightsaber and kyber crystal, or are they just going to sweep it under the rug and move along with the story? Now, as much as I enjoyed reading that, I'm going to have to immediately hand it over to you guys because I'm not on the Rebels thing quite in the same shelf as you. But
Well,
okay, number one, you can outline to me basically. Is there a difference there? Is that why he's bringing this element up with Ezra and the new lightsaber?
Yeah, the series 3 or the season 3 trailer shows that Ezra's got a green lightsaber, whereas in the first 2 seasons we saw him acquire his kyber crystal and build a blue lightsaber.
Okay,
it's a horrible lightsaber, look like a staple gun. But in this one, he's rocking the green saber, so he's gotten the green crystal somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'll let you take the stage in a sec, Rob, but just to briefly get my view across, Corey and I have been having discussions behind the scenes about what's happening with Star Wars, the big picture.
Okay.
And I really don't think that they're going to throw anything out there and ignore it. I think that there'll probably be enough room to explore every aspect of Ezra's development, either on a show or an expanded storytelling. And I think it's going to play a part now in on the larger stage for the film, for the movies later on. I think we're going to see that stuff start to pay off because I don't think that these characters are just little characters that exist in a cartoon and then we can ignore them. I think they're going to have a legacy. Yeah. They're canonical characters, but I think that their legacy is going to be significant. Rob?
Yeah, I kind of with you on that one. I think there's no reason why they can't cover that in dialogue because they've established kind of kyber crystals and lightsabers and pilgrimages and all that stuff from Clone Wars, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we've seen the children go on their trials to get them. I'm
going to throw a speculation out there.
Oh.
So at the end of Series 2 of Star Wars Rebels, spoilers, obviously, if you don't want to be spoiled, do you remember there was a crossguard lightsaber that turned up in the teaser?
Yes.
And it sputtered out as soon as he turned it on.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon he might have taken the crystal out of there.
Absolutely, because it was green-bladed, wasn't it? It was Kylo's style, but green-blade, yeah.
Yes, it was cross-guarded, but it sputtered out as soon as he turned it on. And I wonder if it's because the actual saber mechanism's duff rather than the crystal.
Yeah.
So the crystal might still be good to use, so he might have taken that and put it in his saber.
Absolutely. I'm with you there completely. No, I'm with you there completely. Absolutely.
He does have a very interesting lightsaber.
You've
the
just
whole
seen
staple gun effect. Yeah,
because it's part.
I quite like that. Actually.
It's part blaster as well. He didn't quite.
Yes.
It's kind of like.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it was designed to be part hidden, wasn't it? Because in the first series they were sort of both trying to keep out of the eyes of the Empire in terms of the Force, because obviously Order 66 was. Yeah, absolutely. It made perfect sense.
But it's also
it's Kanan's was a kit, wasn't it?
Yeah, he pieced the thing together. There was it's analogous as well of Luke's journey, his character's arc, where he started as the farm boy, and then he's got, by the time, I think actually at the end of A New Hope, when he's walking down at the medal presentation, he's got the blaster strapped to one leg, isn't he, Luke?
Yes.
And then in Empire Strikes Back, he's got the blaster and the lightsaber, and then by Jedi, he's ditched the blaster. So he's making that transition, and I kind of wonder whether or not Ezra's
he might go the same way.
Blaster / lightsaber combination was an effort to sort of communicate to us that it wasn't quite ready to go full Jedi, and now in Series 3 he's gone to full Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
With
it's
that
entirely possible.
Being his only weapon.
It makes a lot of sense from a stylistic point of view. Obviously, that's something they don't necessarily need to get across in dialogue, because they didn't do it with Luke, and we still picked up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things.
Didn't say, Luke, you're not wearing your blaster. Oh, I don't need that anymore.
Exactly. They're thematic things, aren't they? Tonal things that enable us to sort of see.
That's a really good point. How many times does Luke even have a blaster in Jedi?
He doesn't.
He doesn't. He tries to blaster once.
He tries to get
one
from Jabba.
Does he have it initially on Endor?
No.
Oh, I don't know.
No, he doesn't.
No. He tries to get one from Jabba. But then
he takes the weapon from a guard in Jabba's palace,
that's right.
and then he loses it immediately, doesn't he?
That's right, because he gets thrown down into the. Why it doesn't come down with him? I've no idea. Somebody's still holding on to it, maybe trying to get it out of his hand.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch Jedi again. I mean, any excuse, but I'll have to keep that in mind next time I watch it.
Tonight, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I want a full write-up in the morning.
1st of October, we may well be doing a Star Wars viewing.
Oh yeah, true. This is true.
Okay, Corey, I think Rob's just answered your question there, old chap. I think it will be the saber refines.
Thanks for the education, actually. Good question. Helps me.
You need to get on. Right,
It's really good.
I'm going to throw this out there now, right? Now, don't hold me to this, but I'm thinking what might be a good idea would be for us to maybe put the After Dark Side on a brief hiatus. And all of us catch up and watch a bunch of Rebels.
Right.
And then the After Dark Side can be a Rebels discussion.
Time around.
Give it some thought, Paul. Give it some thought if you want to catch up on Rebels, and then we can sit down and break it down. Talk about the Rebel show, because I think I need to get back into it. I've been listening to Tumbling Saber guys talk about it, and it's making me think I need to get back into it.
Up.
I think so. Yeah.
It'd help me out with your extended universe and canonical stories as well. I do feel backburnered sometimes, and I don't want to do that to you anymore. So,
don't feel like that, mate.
No. Right, it's my thing for not shutting up about Legends.
Yeah. That is completely your
You said
thing.
it. The L word.
Yeah. I know. Sorry.
All right. We've got a question this week from Ads, and it's come in as an audio file. So
do we know where Ads is from?
The future is now.
Ads is our lad. Well, I think I'm not sure where he's from, actually. I know he's a fan of Liverpool. I know he's a fan of Liverpool, Paul.
I think it's fairly obvious from the audio he's not from Liverpool. Or if he is, he's not been there in some time.
All right. Well, Lizzie's question, and just a brief thing, if you do want to send us audio messages and questions, you can do so by just recording it. It's very simple. Just record it into your mobile and then either send it to us as an iMessage or an email at talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. So this is Ad's question this week. If I can just get it to play.
Worked before.
Here we go.
Hello, chaps. Firstly, can I start by saying what a fantastic show you all produce each and every week. It's been great to watch TSW grow and expand into the Commonwealth alongside partners in crime, the boys over at Tumbling Sabers, and of course Gen X-Wing as well. My question this week concerns cosplay. I'd like to know what costumes you'd select for each other to wear if you were all going to go to a Star Wars convention together. This is your opportunity to actually put clothes on Steve for once. I hope you have a great show. I'll enjoy listening.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. Do you see what I mean, Paul? Though he doesn't possess the traditional Liverpool accent. I'll say that.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's
joined us from Downton Abbey.
That's great stuff. Thank you for that, Ads.
That's a headbanger, actually.
Yeah. So
Steve's definitely gold bikini.
Yeah, let's just do Steve
the minimum
first.
amount of clothes possible.
When I heard Ad's question, I thought, what we need to do is one of us needs to dress the other. So I was going to go first, and I was going to dress Steve, and then Steve was going to take one of you guys and onwards and upwards. With Steve out of the running, we were going to do the Princess Leia bikini, weren't we? Each of us was going to choose that for. So
size noodles from Return of the Jedi for Steve.
Steve in
eight bikini tops, just stacked down.
Well, that's not a good idea. All right, so I will be in the being in the big seat on this show. I will take the dealer's choice. I'm going to go first. Paul, you are going to be my victim. You, sir, are going.
How much of a stereotype is going to be applied to this?
No stereotype at all. You, my friend, are going to cosplay as a Jawa. I don't think you'll have any trouble getting one to fit.
Obviously, I was going to go the other way, but no, just as far as the stun gun, I'm happy. That means you're my R2. Stick that up your ass.
Right, Paul, you got to do Rob now, haven't you?
I go. Oh, okay. Well, I was
going to also choose a costume for me. That'd be great.
Rob, how tall are you?
6'7".
You serious?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're 2 foot taller than me. That's brilliant.
What?
So,
you're not 4'7".
I'm about that.
I don't believe.
Okay, based on those credentials, I was going to do this anyway, but I was going to do it to someone else. I want to dress you as Wicket.
Big Wicket.
I had a feeling
Or
it
Chief
was going to be a
Chirper.
short character.
Maybe
I
Chief
had that
Sherpa.
feeling.
He's a bit more. He's got the leopard stripes, hasn't he?
This
well,
episode
thank
has
you.
to be
Tiger
called
Stripes.
Big Wicket.
You've
But I
embraced
think,
my inner fabulous.
I think you've got to go into the wicket category.
I'm going to
Now,
have something.
you get to insult the
Finally,
king, so go for it.
finally, I'm going to have something in common with Warwick Davis.
Yeah, I'm going to have nightmares about that. Go on, Rob. What you got? You're
See what
dressing
we
me,
got.
right?
Yeah, I gathered that. Yeah. Let's see.
Mark's finger hovers over the end call button.
No pressure. Let me see. I'm having a look at you and kind of see. I could go for like a joke one, but I'm trying to approach it in a more thoughtful, considered way. So,
I would kind of like to know the joke one, actually.
I mean, obviously it's Lando. I timed that to wait to see. I could see you drinking, so
Yeah.
I timed that just to get it. See how much I could get on your wall.
Okay, so I'm making a note here as we go. So I'm making a note for myself, blackface.
Are you making a shopping list?
So we're all going to do this in Miami, right?
Yeah, we got it, yeah. No, Lando's cool. I'd dig his
Lando's
threads.
awesome. I love Lando.
Ooh, I could rock a cape.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Steve could be your Lobot. There you go.
I don't have
Sorted.
the hair. I don't have the hair to pull off a Lando, though.
I could do the Lobot thing.
You could probably stick a... Yeah, Paul might work as Lobot. There you go.
Yeah.
Let me think. Who else?
I just get to sit there asleep all day with headphones on, right?
Yeah, just listening to tunes like
night.
DJ Elliott at Celebration. So we probably need to go another round, don't we, really?
Let's dress you up in a costume, obviously. There's options for like C-3PO,
Wouldn't fit.
Cockney C-3PO, C for Cockney 3PO. Oh, Master Luke, do me a lemon.
I think you'd do a fairly funky back Chewie, actually, Mark.
That worked.
Yeah.
You do a pretty good Chewie. Yeah. If you want to go on a slightly more serious and obvious tone, yeah.
Cricks
Right.
Maydean. Going serious.
Cricks Maydean.
General Maydean. Yeah, with a fake ginger beard.
And get a little comb over going. Yeah.
I reckon that'd work.
I could do that.
You got a tattoo on your arm, by the way.
I have indeed.
I thought you might have. Yeah.
So
That you just wrote notes.
I've just written some show notes on it.
Hey, just paper and a pen. So much easier. Look at this.
Yeah. Oh, didn't you have a question about tattoos? Oh, let's do another round of this
Yes, I
fancy
did. Yeah.
dress thing before we get to that.
All right.
What-
Can we for a bit of fun?
Go
Right.
on.
So we did the kind of semi-jokey ones.
Yeah.
Now, let's. Oh, actually, no, that's no good, is it? Because we're doing TSW proper main show. If we were kind of splitting after Dark Side, I'd say forget that it's a Star Wars convention. Just assume it's a Comic-Con, and then it broadens the scope. But obviously, because we're doing the main show, maybe it's better to just stick to.
So you're talking complete open cosplay?
That was my question, but we'll save that for another after Dark Side, because
yeah,
I
that
like
makes
that.
sense.
We probably get some decent mileage out of that, I reckon.
Yeah. So let's say, all right, we've done the jokey ones, but let's say a legitimate one. What do you think would complement us best if we were to genuinely try and do cosplay properly?
Well, to be honest, we kind of answered the question that was put to us. The fact is, what would you, if you were choosing,
For yourself?
what would you pick up off the rack?
Shall I be honest?
Yeah, go on.
Krennic.
Yeah, that
I would love.
You do have.
I would dearly love
that would rock.
to walk through Star Wars Celebration or somewhere like that in full-on Krennic get-up with troopers beside me. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
And I've got to be honest, I've got that kind of. I can paste on that smugness pretty easily.
I would
Just a veneer. It's fine.
I would think I would have to. I've always had a fascination for Luke's best bin fatigues.
Okay.
That was cool.
I really like that. That's probably my favourite. Probably my favourite costume.
Nice.
Yeah, interesting. Rebel Hoth.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's cool.
He used to be my favourite Star Wars figure, actually.
That what the Rebel one or the General?
The Rebel Hoth guard, the Rebel Hoth fatigue guard. Yeah.
General Recon was a good one because he used to
It was
rock
like
it.
it's like a mask. It's like it was like ski goggles with a mask coming down the side and so on.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool actually.
That was awesome.
That was pretty cool. Yeah,
that was great.
Either that or Watto.
Racial stereotype. Ads, that was a brilliant question. Thank you for breaking the voicemail seal there, Ads. I hope people follow suit.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It is thoroughly thrilling to hear your voice.
Hopefully
Although,
he's
like I said,
transformed
you are
into
nothing like your voice is nothing like I pictured at all.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Eds, and he says, I said to him what I was planning to do with opening this up to voicemail and things like that, and getting other people on. You know what my thing is? I think of this as a community, and I want to get everyone involved, so get people little snippets on the show.
Dive in.
And he said, well, maybe Connor should be the first guy, because Connor's consistently done so much work on the show. And I said to him, no, don't stand on ceremony. Like, Connor's already got his question in for this week.
Oh, there you go.
But a
You're
challenge.
also very important.
Challenge now. I want to hear from Connor and from Leo an audio version of their question one week. But everybody else, all the major players here, Nathan, I'm calling you out now. Reese, Qui-Gon Reese, Nathan Kenobi,
Roku Depot,
yeah, let's get him on. Stacey, Christopher White,
Go Crouch,
you guys,
Go Crouch. I'm throwing down the gauntlet to
everyone,
you, my friend.
get us a voice.
I know you're not uncomfortable getting your voice on the airwaves.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. You don't need to worry about getting in there deep. Give us something that's fun to chew on and get your voice on the show. It'd be awesome.
Go Crouch. I expect you to go in deep.
Yeah, actually, there's something from Joe in the show notes this week. In the news section.
I saw that, yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to our first break, and we're going to hear from the guys at Tumbling Saber, their awesome new ad, and then when we come back, we've got a wonderful Connor's Corner this week, so we will be back.
Yo, Tumbling Saberers.
What's up?
My brother.
I got this great idea for a promo. Check it. Now, here's a little story I like to tell about three podcasters you know so well. We talk about a galaxy far away with Anakin, Luke, and his daughter Rey.
Whoa, James, there. Pump the brakes a bit. We don't know that yet. I mean, it's a leading theory and all, but there are certainly other possibilities. She could be a Kenobi, or a Solo, or even a child of the Force.
Or Kylo Ren's sister? They had a loyal droid named 3PO, got him in R2 from the Sand People. The droids were on the lam on a planet full of sand. Sand people picked them up because droids are in demand.
James, I totally dig this, but make sure people know that we talk about more than just the saga movies. I mean, we dive into Rebels, theories, literature, comics, conventions. We cover anything and everything from the GFFA.
Okay, but... One lonely Jedi, Luke B. All by himself with just Kenobi. The sons were beaten down like the Empire's grasp. Had to get off Tatooine and they had to get off fast. Looking for a girl, they ran into a guy. His name was Han Solo. They said howdy, he said hi.
Dude, we're almost out of time. You can't wrap out the entire plot of all 7 movies.
Actually, bro, the song predicts the entire saga through its completion.
Does it even mention our patented random thought segment? Or our sports tangents? Or our listener interactions? Oh, never mind, James. Just skip to the end, will ya?
In episode 30 on a sphere that's cold.
Subscribe to the Tumbling Saber podcast on iTunes and Stitcher.
Join the mailing list and read our blogs at tumblingsaber.com.
You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Join our growing community.
And become part of the Star Wars Commonwealth.
And we're back. So you've just heard from the fine guys at Tumbling Saber, 1/3 of the Star Wars Commonwealth alongside us and Gen X-Wing. And as always, after you hear from the Tumbling Saber guys, you will now hear from Connor's Corner featuring Leo. So Connor writes thusly, and he gives it the title this time. Or is that yours, Mark?
No, this was on his email.
Oh, it's on his email. Nice. I like this, Connor. Keep this up. Titles. That's my ride. Hello, gents. I trust you're all well. I'm taking another little detour this week and would love to hear you get your geek on and hear what we Star Wars fans do sometimes. It's the old wish list for episode 8 and what we want from it. One in particular is Poe's ship. Now hear me out on this. We know he has his awesome black X-Wing fighter, which he got a replacement for pretty quick, but lost his no claims, I'll bet. Nice.
Depends who it was with, really.
Yeah, it's true.
Direct line.
You'd hope their insurance would be pretty robust. Now that The Force Awakens is done and we've seen our heroes teaming up, Rey and Chewie get the Falcon, but Poe and Finn, how will they be getting around? I'm sure it won't be in Poe's X-Wing. Will we get to see a new ship in the next film? It's going to have to be something pretty special, as it's the first new iconic ship for a new generation of fans. I know the scene of Poe and Finn in the TIE Fighter was great, but Poe's got his BB unit back, and there's no way BB-8 is going to take a back seat, pun intended. after how popular those Falcon scenes were. If we do get a new ship, we know it's going to be awesome, right? We'd also like to hear what you don't want in this film as well. I know this could take up a chunk of the show, so only 3 things from each of you. Oh, he's set us limits in place. He knows what we're like. I know it's not my place to make up the rules, but somebody has to be the grown-up here, okay? Fair.
Is this Leo?
This is nice. So let's get a little contest going here, and when the film comes out, whoever gets the most right, I'll buy them a pint of blue milk. Okay. Brackets beer. Deal? Also, get some input from your listeners and what they want also. All right, mate, steady on, making demands. Take care, and as always, may the force be with you. Long live the Commonwealth. P.S. Leo and I are doing a list as well. Can't wait to hear the results. I'd be very interested to hear that list.
Absolutely.
Sent by Holocron. So let's break it down. Can we expect a new iconic Star Wars ship?
Who sent out the Slave 1 email?
I think that was Steve.
That was Steve,
yeah.
was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was kind of suggesting it would be cool if someone was using Slave 1 in the movies.
Right.
I'm up for that.
Okay. But, I mean, yeah, but this is going on the assumption that these two are going to go buddy, right? Is that
What,
Finn and
necessarily
Poe?
the case? I actually quite like them as independent spirits in the system, to be honest.
I think that's the way it's going, Paul, to be fair. From
What,
what
buddy? What, buddy? Or
No, independence. From what I've heard, it sounds like Poe is going to be taking charge of some sort of fleet in Leia's absence in the movie.
Right. Okay.
And Finn will very much be off on his own. Well, not necessarily on his own, but with Kelly Marie Tran, she's the new actress in episode 8.
Yeah.
Whoever her character turns out to be may be very significant. So I think Finn will be off on his own. Poe's probably going to be in charge of some kind of cruiser. So the question is, what's Finn going to be piloting? That might be quite cool to see what
I've got an answer for that one actually. So.
Go for it.
Well, I didn't want a new cool ship. I just wanted him to steal something really cool.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
I didn't want not just what from the Falcon. I want him to, brazenly steal something from the First Order.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I think he might go out as part of some sort of organised group on a ship of some type.
Yeah,
and maybe
which is interesting because this latches on to other stuff that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes as well.
Yeah,
so.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
But Poe on a big ship, I think.
Okay. I have a theory on this one. We've talked about the Resistance. We haven't talked about the First Order. We could have some sort of iconic, much in the same way as in Empire, the iconic ship was the Super Star Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
We could have something.
No, the Executor.
That was the Executor. Yeah.
Executor.
So that was the first time we've seen that in the films. So I wonder if we might get a big First Order ship in a similar kind of vein, or some sort of ship which transports the Knights of Ren around the galaxy.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Do you think
I don't know.
They wouldn't have their own ships.
I don't know. It depends, doesn't it? Because if they come together as a group all the time, it depends on how they use them in the film, doesn't it? Because if they get if my theory holds water and they dispatch them in the same way they dispatch probe droids, they would all have to have their own ships.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're kind of traveling around as a group for whatever reason, they're just transplanted as a. I think it's 7, isn't it, including Kylo?
So therefore, with Kylo, they could just use Kylo's shuttle, right?
They could, yeah.
Which I think that actually carries its own menace anyway.
Oh yeah,
I think it absolutely does.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
The amount of space it takes up, and how it can sort of expand in size in different contexts.
The wings,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking. I like also thinking about the Knights of Ren. They might be like the Magnificent Seven. And then you could say that their ships would be like their horses, so they would all be independent and unique. Yeah, and then they'd land and they'd get their group on, and that's when you start.
I want them in a similar way to have unique weapons as well.
So they tie their ships up outside a little dusty bar.
They walk into bars and the space
all
piano
spurs. with little exhaust ports on them.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Well, there, Carlo.
That's a really good call.
Run you out of town.
That's also led into more stuff I've written down, but there you go.
What about a Snoke sovereign ship?
You going along the idea of the Executor. I said the Avenger, the Executor, though. I kind of want to see Snoke in some kind of more humble situation.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I think a bit more modest.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to be. I mean,
I think you're
we
right.
had Palpatine sitting in the Death Star throne, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You had Lord Vader on the executive.
But he wasn't for the bulk of it, was he? He was on Coruscant. He was kind of squirreled away.
I know, but you think about Jedi, the iconic scenes for Palpatine with the throne scenes, release your hatred and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why it sounds like Prince Charles.
Incidentally, that they finished the throne room before they built the chassis. When you think about the Death Star 2, they finished the throne room before they built the outside of it.
Did you notice as well? I mean, we are going a little bit off piste here, but the throne room was essentially the Jedi Temple on the Death Star 2.
Yeah.
It's like this huge spire.
Yeah.
And it had the little room that pointed in 4 directions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the way you're thinking, Paul, about Snoke having a bit more of a modest presence, purely on the basis of who it suggested he currently might be in the Aftermath series. Because he doesn't, that character that they're kind of alluding to him being, doesn't strike me as the kind of person who'd have a big, garish capital ship.
I think
he would have something very small. He would have something very subtle, because that's his character. He's a subtle manipulator. He doesn't, he's only kind of really come to the, if it's the same guy, because obviously I'm speculating. If it's the same guy, he's only come into the forefront since the First Order even became a thing, because he's not mentioned in Bloodline, and that's 6 years.
He's not even mentioned in Bloodline.
Nope.
That's interesting in itself. I thought it was mentioned at least. Okay. The other thing that might go against this is obviously the size of his hologram.
This is true. Now, on that subject, I have a question to ask you guys, but we'll finish this up first, and I have a question to ask afterwards.
Tangent City tonight.
Well, let's just jump into these. Let's just jump into our 3 wants and our 3 not so muches.
You want them bullet points or elaborate? No, let's just go with bullet points that will grow. You know what we're like.
We got all the time in the world. Yeah. Paul, why don't you take us away with your first? Let's do it one each. Let's do it one each, yeah? And we'll go around. We'll do a round robin.
Okay. I want to meet Snoke. I want to know exactly who he is, but the backstory can stop there for now. I do want full coverage on Snoke. I want to meet Snoke. I want conversations with Snoke. I want him with Kylo Ren. But I don't really care about the backstory, but I want to know what we're dealing with here and so on.
So in person,
his environment, his surroundings. Yeah, I want I want good dialogue, and I want to get a taste of who this guy actually is beyond the hologram, and go from there. That's my first want.
I like that. That's awesome. Rob,
I want the Knights of Ren to have energy weapons that do not take the traditional lightsaber shape. So I want, for example, the Knight of Ren who has an axe-looking thing. I want the blade of it to be energy-based rather than a physical blade.
Okay, so are we thinking
I want them to have basically
Grievous's guards?
Yeah, I want them basically to have taken the concept and tinkered with it in a way that some would consider unnatural.
I like that. That ties into, that's very Sith-like.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they are Sith, but obviously they must be kind of looking at some of the how-tos.
Yeah, I don't think
there's got to be Empire YouTube's got to be dominated by, building
how to build your lights.
Yeah, how to build a
Sith tube
86 reaction videos.
Palpatino's YouTube channel will be.
Welcome back to my channel. Subscribe.
My first one would be that I'd like to see Obi-Wan and Yoda as Force ghosts.
Okay.
Do you think we should elaborate on these things? Yeah, it's just, I've got a man crush on Ewan for a start, but I can't see the story moving forward for the Jedi without those two.
Yoda. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, number 2, Paul.
I'm a lot more interested in seeing Kylo Ren and the Knights than I am Luke and Rey at the moment. I want good understanding, and like you said, like Rob just said, weaponry, idealism, history. I would like to see some flashback stuff with them as well. I want to know where they've been, what they've done, things like that. If there's any kind of relic or any kind of temples and things that they might have been involved in, that kind of thing would be cool as well. I do want a full backstory on the Knights of Ren.
That's just got my mind racing.
They intrigue me enormously.
Their idealism, that line alone, Paul, mind blowing. What motivates the Knights of Ren?
It's almost like you see Adam Driver walk into It could be an old room, a new room, a dark room. It could be a temple. It could be anything. And there's just like these 5 or 6 kneeling figures. And I don't know if he's going to be angry, happy, sad, high fives, low fives, high chest, buds, whatever. But I want to see this idealism and this brotherly whatever they've got going. What stirs their cuppa? Because I mean, they're going to be. They're on the same wavelength mentally as Kylo, right?
Mm.
Why? He has an agenda. So what stirs all these little individuals that just tag along? They're not just sheep. They've all got their own agendas, possibly. And I want to meet them all. I do want to meet them all if the numbers are limited. That's what I'm talking about.
And there's some interesting material there as well, Paul, because Kylo's agenda might not complement the agenda of the Knights of Ren, the mandate the Knights of Ren have been given.
Which is also interesting in itself.
Because we still don't really know what the Sith motivation was, do we? We know that it was revenge, but we don't know what for. So are the Knights of Ren all committed to a cause?
Weren't they absolute power at the end of the day, really?
I guess.
Regardless of what they did with it, they wanted it. There didn't seem to be anything more than absolute power sort of thing. But
just this thirst for power and control.
Yeah.
And we've said before on this show that there's been mixed motivations in there, with some of them being almost sympathetic. But the Knights of Ren, I see them sort of being an allegory for the modern, I hesitate to use the word terrorist, but these young people that are indoctrinated into and pursue a lifestyle committed to...
irrational to what they would normally believe, possibly.
It's an irrational goal, potentially. And maybe that's what motivates the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
And inside
why they're
the
so
Knights of Ren,
disenfranchised.
the master of the Knights of Ren has a different agenda altogether.
Which is possibly Snoke. Probably Snoke.
And emulating...
Is he just a marionette?
Emulating his grandfather. Well, I think he is. Yeah, definitely. I think Snoke's pulling his strings, but Snoke's whispering in his ear all the time, if you do this, you'll be like your granddad. And that's the thing that is motivating... That seems to be the thing that's motivating Ben all along, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But when he's talking to that helmet, I will finish what you started.
Mm.
You said that quite well.
There doesn't seem to be any idealism there beyond that, does there really? He's just emulating his grandfather. He's using that to define who he is. Now, if that's at odds with the mandate that the Knights of Ren have, that will be very interesting. I'll be really keen to see that. That's a good call.
You just added to the list. A little bit of inner conflict there would be great fun.
But that's a major conflict. Major conflict. Rob, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is I want to see how the dark side train, because we have never, ever in Saga seen it.
No, they've always turned up ready to rock and roll, haven't they?
Exactly, and I want to know how, and I want. Do you know to expand on it? What I want to see is that they have to suffer in order to increase the amount of kind of raw power they can harness. I'm going to drop the L bomb. So. In Legends, you're familiar with Yuuzhan Vong?
Yes, we spoke about him briefly last week.
Yeah, the new Jedi Order villains who couldn't be felt in the Force.
Mm-hmm.
They had this thing called the Embrace of Pain, and there was a whole thing about they kind of venerated pain, and they sort of saw death as the ultimate kind of service, and they didn't fear death. They were ideologically kind of just driven to, and they were just not afraid of pain at all. And it was because they spent their time in their sort of off hours when they weren't battling. They were actually in these kind of these self-imposed torture racks. I want something like that as part of the dark side's kind of mechanisms.
Do you remember we spoke previously about how 8 might start? And part of that was seeing Kylo train.
Yes,
with Snoke.
That would work for me.
I know we were saying that Snoke would be throwing everything he's got at Kylo.
Yes.
Force lightning, droids programmed to engage him in combat, and all the while he's drilling him. In amongst all these distractions, try and dig deep and find the answers inside you. But he read Rey's mind, find where Luke is.
Yes,
that kind of thing. Like the juxtaposition of that alongside the Jedi's more holistic, hippie way of training. Like you run and you jump and you climb and you balance and you all the while try and keep yourself centered.
Mm-hmm.
The Sith training must be diametrically opposed to that, surely.
I would say it has to be, yeah.
That's cool. I like that. I want to see that too.
Yeah.
My second point is in keeping with both the points you've just made. I want to see a darker tone.
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to get that.
I think we had the joy in Force Awakens that we experienced in A New Hope, and now it's time to throw caution to the wind.
Mr. Driver's already mentioned it's a little bit more Empire, and I think he was leaning towards darker tone in the context of what he said. Actually,
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, I think that's coming as well. I think that's coming. I think they're going to be balancing what Mr. and Mrs. Star Wars want with what some of us old religious romantics thought we didn't get. I think they're going to be jamming a little bit more of that in.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also because
they're on a major win-win.
On the latest Tumbling Saber, Kyle nailed it for me. They're going to make the most out of the kind of the original generation before they move on to a younger demographic eventually. In the meantime, they're going to make the most out of the kind of the eternal fans, the ones who've been around since the start. They're gonna do the most they can to keep them happy because they're gonna they can make the most money and get the most love out of them while they still can. Because eventually there will be a point where it's not made for us anymore, and that's fine. Because ultimately, sometimes these things change hands, and that's
they do. They do, and I agree with that in a way. I don't know if I would go quite that cynical that that they'll wring every penny out of us until they move on.
I don't mean it. Yeah, I don't mean it in that sense. What I mean is they're going to see us as, and I suppose I'm saying us. I don't necessarily. I suppose maybe I shouldn't count, but they're going to see
Paul and myself, the people that saw it in the theatre in the 70s.
Yeah,
we're the people that got it. They got it right for us.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to look at those people and think, right, we need to do as much as we can to keep them.
They got Star Wars right for us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
They're going to do as much as they can to keep that, to make that still the case. So I think that's absolutely how it's going to play out. Like, so I don't mean to say it cynically in terms of, they don't really give a monkeys about people and stuff like that, because they absolutely do, because ultimately they're a smart business. That's how they keep making that's how they make money, and that's how they keep making money, is they keep the customers who are going to buy their products happy. But at the same time, you do have to start building things in for new fans as well.
That's probably a byproduct of what they're doing, of what their primary goal is, and their primary goal is to make entertainment that works. And and for us in the 70s, and certainly with Empire Strikes Back, they made entertainment that worked, and it followed a very simple formula. And they're probably looking at us as in the original, like the people that saw it in the cinema and the old guard. Yeah, that's a really lovely way of putting it. Yeah, the old guard. And thinking if we can get it right for them, that gives us a new formula to work to for the next gen. And the next gen will just enjoy it because it's worked for us. And it doesn't have to become something else. It became something else with the prequels and fell flat on its face. Whether or not you agree they're good or bad, and we have mixed feelings on it, but it didn't follow the blueprint that was in place from the original films. George's sensibilities had changed in the meantime, so the films, because he was an auteur filmmaker, the films changed to reflect the change in his sensibilities. If you get somebody like Disney that look at it and just say, no, just follow this blueprint, which JJ did, it works. It's a serviceable movie. Paul, you didn't like it at first, but you've fallen in love with it since, and that could be the way forward. And if they get that right, if they please the old guard, then you can we will pass that baton down to the next generation of fans and the next generation, and it will go on forever.
Like Maz passes the lightsaber.
Indeed. Exactly. Good call.
All these things are cyclical.
Paul, your third want.
My third one is, initially I was thinking about two characters, but I think this could be a bit more broad. And I can't quite word this, but I think Rey needs to be the conflict in the next film. And I'm not just talking, everyone's talking about Darkseid. I don't know if there's any other way we can do it, but I think we all adore her so much. I think the film, if it's going to go in a slightly darker direction, I think it might be quite interesting if Ray. Initially, I just wanted Ray Finn conflicts, a Ray Finn conflict sort of situation, but I think Ray needs to be the pinnacle of the point of conflict in the next film.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And by the end of the
enough.
trilogy, she needs to be the villain.
Needs to be what? Sorry,
Needs to be the villain.
the villain. Oh,
Yeah.
you think she's going all the way down the whole route
I would think that would be the best
to
way
be redeemed, or
to work this, possibly at the end of a later trilogy. But right now, I see the way this could work would be to have her follow. She's either going to follow Anakin's path or Luke's path, and not necessarily. She doesn't have to be a Skywalker to do that, but she's the central figure.
Yeah.
I think the Skywalker in question is actually a Solo. I think it's Ben Solo. It will possibly, this trilogy might shape up to be his redemption. But Rey will be the character that we follow, the way we followed Luke during Anakin's redemption. And she will need to follow either Anakin's path and go to the dark side completely, or Luke's and flirt with it and pull herself back. I don't know which way they're going to go with it yet, and that might bring the drama for us as an audience. But I think you're right, though.
I actually want to dislike her.
It would work.
It sounds weird. I want to dislike her. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah.
She's got to be, she's got to grate us somewhat.
Yeah, because even if she does become what's very on vogue at the moment, which is the anti-hero, we will still root for her and want her to come back, right? That's what you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll want to.
Yeah, but at the same time,
think I should be hating this character, but I love her still.
Yeah. Yeah, and it will get people invested because they want to see her come back. And obviously if she doesn't, they'll be like, right, well, I better catch the next one because she's definitely going to have to come back then.
What if she didn't? How bold would that be?
Pretty bold.
Rob, you're number 3.
Number 3, I want to see. It's a weird one, but I want to see Chewie punch somebody full in the face.
You know what? I
don't care who it is. I just want to see Chewie punch somebody.
Chewie needs something meaty to happen, and I'm not talking a tin of dog food.
Yeah,
something needs to occur for Chewie on this movie because his Anchorman's gone, isn't he?
Mm.
And then we want him to be more forthright. I mean, let's be honest. Wasn't he a massive presence on Kashyyyk?
Yeah. He's up there with the generals.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Chewie deserves a bit more airtime with you. I'm with you with that one. A punch in the face.
Why not?
Might be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see what he can really do.
Yeah,
I'm on board with that. You want to see Chewie do Snoke?
Just headbutt him.
That's after dark side.
Boom me a lemon.
Fuck up a leg and pee on him.
My third one is really cheap. It is I want to see Luke ignite that green lightsaber.
Oh, that's gonna. Do you know what? Actually, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I need to see that too.
I think it'll happen.
Oh, it totally will.
I've no doubt.
There's no reason why. There's no way it possibly can't.
But that would just say Star Wars
is
to me.
Yeah, the only way it can't is if he's got something else instead. But
he's going to reach out to take it, and she's going to go psych and run away.
No, not that one though, Paul. That's the blue one. That's the Skywalker lightsaber. I want to see the Jedi lightsaber.
Oh, fine.
Yeah. All right. What about our don't wants?
I'm in a bit of conflict with Rob here, I'm afraid. I don't want to see any training at all.
Oh, okay.
Don't care for the training. I care for the end product. Yeah. I'm not worried about the training. I certainly don't want to see Ray's training. I'll say that. I'll be honest with that.
You didn't like the training in Empire, Paul?
Yeah, but we've been there and done it.
Okay.
I don't want to see someone else doing somersaults and lifting rocks and so on. It's just not necessary.
No, that's the thing. I don't want to see the Jedi training montage. I want to see the dark side one.
Well, I said to you, I want to see their history. It'd be far more interesting to go into like a Ren temple and see what their culture and their ideology and so on. But when it comes to Rey and Luke, everyone's expecting people might be expecting like this
Rocky
thing. I'm like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I'm okay with
context.
Seeing. Yeah, I'm okay with not seeing that because, like you say, we've seen it.
I just want to see Luke like, what the f are you doing?
Yeah. What do you want?
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Rob, what's your first don't want to see?
Yeah, I'm in a tough spot here. I'll qualify this one because it's not quite I don't want to see it. It's more there's more to it. If they're going to pander to certain interests of the outrage brigade, I want it to have a storyline relevance rather than just so and so is like do you know that familiar? There's Finn and Poe. Like there's a group of people who want Finn and Poe to become a romantic, have a romantic attachment by the end of the trilogy.
Shippers, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that as long as it's done in a way that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
What I can't deal with is it's just they're gay because reasons. Because that's what bugged me about all the Ghostbusters stuff and all the Fantastic Four stuff. It wasn't, we thought it would be great to do a passing the torch thing. It was just, we're doing it with women. If you disagree, you're a sexist. Or we're doing it with a black guy as Johnny Storm, and if you disagree, you're a racist. It's like, well, you do have to work a bit harder to get people invested in these things. I'm sorry. And that's why these things get rejected. It's not just necessarily because people object to the concept. It's because they object to the execution. So I think I'm quite happy for them to do stuff like that, but I want it to make sense, and I want to be able to go, oh, I see that. I can see that, and then I want to be able to go back and go, I can sort of see how they've gone down that route. I don't just want it to be for the sake of because they can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I can't think of anything that's happened in a Star Wars movie just for the sake of happening. Everything either has a purpose to drive the story forward, or it just is.
I think I would agree to an extent, but I actually think, for example, I think Rey could have been a bloke.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't have made a lot of difference to the story.
Yeah, but
so to me, that's something that could have been done just because reasons.
What, making her a female just because reasons?
Yeah.
I just don't think it matters.
I think it does because of what's coming next.
Okay. In what way?
Well, we'll find out.
All right. I'm fully on board with the idea that there's more to come, and it will explain certain things like how she got so powerful so fast and things like that. I think that stuff's all coming.
I'm with you with the whole romance between Finn and Poe. I think it needs to, if it's going to do anything, it needs to drive a plot point forward.
Yeah.
Because anything else will seem cynical.
Yeah, again, like I say, if it's just a case of, they sort of tease it over the course of the trilogy and then it eventually happens, I'm like, oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that, but fair enough. But if it's just a case of, they're going through the thing, not talking about it, and they're not talking about it, or, I don't know, trying to think of an example. So, like, if Finn had, like, say him and Kelly Marie Tran had a sort of fling thing, and it's like that sort of thing, and then he suddenly at the end just goes, "I've just decided I'm a gay." that kind of approach. They're really ham-fisted kind of. I'm being glib, but that kind of ham-fisted approach just switches me right off that sort of. It just switches me out of the story. It detaches me from getting involved in the story.
That's the point. That is the whole point. What you just made is nothing should happen in these stories that takes you out of it for any reason. At all. Yeah,
exactly. I have a bad enough time when people are trying to make political messages in films anyway, because I'm just like, there's a load of the Sci-Fi Channel movies are really crappy ones.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those are about global warming. It's like, okay, I get it now. That's been 8 movies now where I've seen a giant one thing fight a giant something else, and it's all about save the planet. Okay, the tambourine has been banged. That is the little symbols at the side are straight up worn out now. Come on.
I'm with you there. It makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be labelled a horrible homophobe. But
no, it's nothing to do with that.
No, I know, and I'm sure anybody who knows me well enough knows that my feelings are much more nuanced than.
None of us would be against that particular relationship at all.
If it's done properly.
In the same way as I wouldn't want Rey and Finn to have a romance unless it serviced the plot. If it's going to be Poe and Finn and it services the plot, then that's fine. And you couldn't think of two more capable actors to deliver a sensitive take on that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it, but prostituting it to make a statement,
Yeah, like I
is
say,
wrong.
just leave it out of the.
Treat it with if you're going to use it, treat it with respect.
Yeah, because actually, I think I'm of the opinion that doing it ham-fisted is actually more
Worse.
offensive.
Yeah, it
than
is.
doing it and just saying because reasons deal with it.
Pandering. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the
not pander
pandering
to
is
the
actually
audience.
a lot of this panda stuff to me. This kind of outrage culture that's been bred is more offensive to me than the thing they're rallying supposedly against.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Okay.
Even if their motives seem pure, I always find myself just thinking, "Oh, shut up."
Yeah.
Put it kind of bluntly.
I have a very simple. Don't want I don't want a retread of The Empire Strikes Back.
Fair.
I'm happy for us to follow a darker route
Oh, come on.
and a complicated story, but a retread of the story verbatim, not so much.
Totally with you.
You were happy with the retread of A New Hope.
Yeah,
Oh no, he didn't.
because it had a purpose. It had to reboot pandas. It had to reboot.
It's a lot of pandering.
Yeah, for a bit of background,
So I
Paul's
popped
been
in-
putting,
see
every
what
time I've
happens?
used the word panda, Paul's been putting a picture of a panda into the show notes.
I pop into the chat for just a second, and all I get is confronted with a tidal wave of pandas.
Panda brigade.
Sorry, yeah, we were saying. I was fine with what The Force Awakens did with regard to following the rhythms of A New Hope,
Yeah.
because it needed to be what we were calling a freeboot. It needed to reboot the Star Wars franchise in a way that was comfortable for everybody and engage a new audience, which it did.
Everybody?
Well, almost. I mean, now, Paul, your take on it is different to the way it was.
I've still got
in this
reservations about some elements, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I know
I'm
what
sure.
you don't worry.
I get it.
As we go on, I'm sure that it will deliver less on certain elements for me than it did initially, the film. They probably won't be as robust after a dozen viewings as the original movies. But with the next movie, I think that they will do the franchise a disservice if they get called out on this sin again. And I really would rather see a new narrative. Something original, something that challenges me.
I think that's going to happen. So.
Totally get that.
They got the right filmmaker in place to deliver that. So
I think so. He's a good shout. I think he'll be fine.
Paul, you're number 2.
I do. I said you were leading into territory I'd written down earlier. I do not want a Finn Poe buddy thing.
A buddy thing. When you say a buddy thing.
Well, I don't want this.
How buddy?
Well, they can be friends, but I don't want this. I don't want this duo of. Yeah, I don't want this. No, I don't want this duet of fun.
Oh, you don't want like
these two
48
together.
hours, but done with those two.
No, I don't want any of that. Which I thought that might be leaning in that direction. I really want Finn to become an important single entity. Actually,
I would be more than fine with
think
that.
he offers a lot.
He's perfectly capable of handling that by himself.
To be honest, they are quite yin-yang characteristics. You know, the whole Poe. Who goes first? You go first. I go first. Doing that, the whole brash, cocky, bring it on. I'm not afraid of you. Whereas Finn he's humorous and brash and cocky.
I see what you're saying.
So don't get me wrong, it probably would work, but I like Finn a lot, and I really want him to have his own vitality, basically.
Yes. No, I'm with you on that. I think, and I would like to see them go off in their own directions and stand on their own 2 feet separately, because I think we did see that with Poe, and we did see that with Finn a bit, but Finn was never really by himself standing on his own 2 feet during the film, was he? Whereas Poe obviously was, ace pilot and they had that fantastic montage.
I think he's got a military career ahead of him anyway. Whereas Finn, I think, is going to be on a totally different agenda.
We need to, I
don't want any bromance and coolness and stuff like that. Lethal weapons.
I'd be fine with them kind of being off in different directions. Yeah,
I think that's what's going to happen. From what I've been hearing, I think that they're pretty much separate.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Rob, your second don't want.
I don't want any of the Knights of Ren to turn out to be Boba Fett.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. I think there's
off with that.
Slim to no hope of that.
Is that being whispered?
There was. So I'll go back going back a bit. When the first, it would have been the second teaser, I think, was released. There was a very brief flash of the Knights of Ren in the rain, and somebody was doing the rounds with a Photoshop that looked like a Mandalorian helmet, and people were saying that might be Boba Fett.
Oh please!
Oh yeah, I'm so over the idea.
No, we're ticking the same box there. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'd be happy for him to turn up in, like I say, as a little sort of background shot in Rogue One. Fine, because they're looking for mercenaries and stuff. Makes perfect sense. With Boba Fett, I'm just like, no. Just with episode 8, I want to stay certainly clear of the Knights of Ren. I don't mind him being in the film if it serves a better purpose, but I think having Boba Fett near the Knights of Ren is a no-go for me.
Yeah, I don't.
Unless he's Ren, but then he's not. So
no,
probably won't be. So there you
go. My second one is I don't want Chewbacca to die. I think there's been some rumours about that this week, and
really? Yeah,
he's a mammal, mate. It's going to happen.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily want to see it on screen. We've already lost.
That's actually a really good point.
I don't want to lose another beloved.
No, fair.
Number 3.
I don't want any type of Death Star, please.
Yep, you've just taken away my third option there as well. I was saving that. I've got. I actually anticipated that would be on somebody's list, so I've given myself an alternate number 3. But yeah, super weapon. Nothing.
No Death Stars, Star Killers, and stuff. No.
Rob,
I don't want to see Hux die. I want him to persist through the trilogy.
Okay,
because because that's one of the things I missed about about A New Hope was Tarkin.
It's a good point, actually.
And I would have liked to see him continue a bit and see how it would have been kind of cool. I can understand why they did it, because obviously they wanted to cement Vader as the big bad for the next film. But it would have been interesting to see how Tarkin adapted to not having a super weapon.
Yeah.
Because obviously when he was in Rebels, he knows there's something going on in the background because he's been part of it. Because obviously his book is canon, so all his stuff about supervising the project is he's well aware of what it is and what it can do. Maybe not what it could fully do, but he's certainly aware there's a significant presence backing him up. I'd been interested to see a different take on it in Empire, where he had to adapt to not having that at his disposal anymore, and how he, reacted and what he went on to do from there. That would have been cool.
Yeah, so you want to see that now played out through the Hux character.
I want Hux to endure because he's so bloody good as well, Domhnall Gleeson, in that role. To me, he's so good. I've got a 4th as well, actually, but I won't say it because obviously
you're not allowed a 4th.
We're restricted to ourselves to 3.
Yeah. Well, I've got my third was, Paul, you took part of it, which was a super weapon, but I also really don't want to see an over-the-top General Hux moment. And
you don't want to see an over-the-top one?
No, that whole thing where he's talking to the assembled troops on Starkiller, was just. I mean, it was
for you that was a ham sandwich.
It was the right side of hamming it up. He just stopped short of overdoing it, but I don't think we need that. It was very on the nose.
I loved that bit, but I'm with you on that one. Yeah. I would be much prefer to him to be more of a subtle malevolence rather than a big over-the-top bombastic speaker.
That is the thing.
I loved that speech because it was just so bile-filled and vengeful. But I can see how it might be nicer to see a more subtle, more refined, more kind of calculating, rather than, again, this could be the opportunity we get to see a character not having a big base to back him up anymore. So maybe we get to see that with Hux instead.
But now he's already done that. I don't know if he can come back from it. So
what do you mean, sorry?
If you look at like Hux when he's standing on his super weapon, giving it large to all those troops, that's what Hux is to me now. So I don't see him. I don't see them having the freedom to dial that character back and give you that soft, quiet malevolence that, say, a Darth Maul had when the doors open and he peers up from under that hood.
So I don't want to see him. I get what you're saying. So I'll refine my wording then. I want to see him appear more fragile and less assured.
Oh, you're definitely going to get that, I think.
And see how his character evolves. Because if there is a Starkiller 2 in episode 9, which there might well be, then he might again regain some of that bombast and some of that courage. But I want to see him more subdued, more kind of maybe he has to adapt, and maybe you get to see him. Either see his character grow as he has to adapt to new new circumstances, or you see how much of it is bluster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. Connor, you had your money's worth.
Yeah, so let that be a lesson to you, Connor. There is no such thing as a quick answer with Talk Star Wars. And you should know this by now, mate.
You predicted it would go on a bit. That's why I kept the listener questions at the top of the show light, because I knew we were going to get into this pretty deep. I've got to say, though, I want to hear from everybody else.
Yes, I do too.
I'd love to hear what you want and what you don't want to see in the next Star Wars movie. Not just 8, but the rest of the trilogy, if you like, on the spin-off films, whatever.
So email us or tweet us, like DM us on Twitter or something
Carrier
like that.
pigeon, whatever works.
Carrier pigeon, whatever you need.
Raven.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just quickly rattle through these Twitter results then for this week.
Okay.
And then we'll get into a couple of bits of news. We're probably going to end up jumping over a couple of bits, I think, because we're running very, very long. We're at the 1 hour 30 mark already. So this week's Twitter poll did not land with a lot of people, I can see already.
Really?
Yeah, so the question was, who will Benicio del Toro play in Star Wars Episode 8? Will it be Castafoe or a bounty hunter, Ezra Bridger from Rebels, or a Sith Lord / a Knight of Ren? 46% of people said a Sith Lord or a Knight of Ren.
Fair.
Only I said Castafoe, judging by those numbers. And I think bounty hunter came in second.
Okay.
25%. The tweet went out to, I'll just open up the tweet activity, 1,400 people. So it really didn't travel as far as
it has in the past.
Our usuals.
No, fair enough.
But thank you to everyone that took part. We've had a couple of comments.
Absolutely, yeah.
Always.
Wesley Van Wensen, Boxerless Bosk on Twitter said, Castafoe is much too young. I feel also likely dead. A knight or a regular officer, in my opinion. Stu Backer, Tales of Geekdom on Twitter, said Ezra would be so cool, but it's never going to happen. Gen X-Wing, our partners in the Commonwealth, said his role will be a politician or a four-fingered thief trying to steal a kyber crystal from a Toydarian jeweler. Brilliant, brilliant little snatch reference.
So I put one in there. Did you see mine?
Yours would have gone out first.
As a side comment, as a quote.
Did you quote it and retweet it?
I did, yeah.
I'm not
Did
seeing it. No, I'm not seeing it on there. What was yours then, mate?
First Senator.
The first Senator. Oh, yeah. Actually, you mentioned it on the show last week.
So in Bloodline, for those who haven't read it, in Bloodline, the whole dialogue is about electing a first Senator. So it's like somebody who's like an emperor figure, like a central figurehead for the politicians, but he's not somebody with large amounts of power. But obviously there's one side that are really wary of having that because of what happened with the emperor, and there's one side that's really keen on it because they actually thought the empire had some good ideas, albeit along with the bad.
Right.
So the first Senator is who they then go on to elect, which at the time of the end of Bloodline we've never heard who it was.
No,
because Castafoe he leaves the picture.
Yes, he's been squirreled off.
He gets squirreled off. Leia becomes ineligible she goes out of the running, so we don't know who they go on to choose. So I think that's an opportunity for them to bring in Benicio playing that role, and he could play it so well. Just this kind of sly and baggy, little bit kind of pompous and up himself politician, especially depending on which side of the coin has their way as well. Obviously, there are two very distinct factions warring in Bloodline. Yeah. Depending on who gets their way, that could be very interesting.
Yeah, it could be. I think a lot of people seem to think that he's going to be some sort of politico.
Okay.
So it's you might be right. You may be very, very right. I think
politician suits his character, his range anyway.
Well, this week's is a little bit more straightforward.
Is it going up now?
It's going to go up any second. So this week's question is from Rob.
Yep.
It's time for a classic at Star Wars Twitter poll. So a very, very straightforward and simple one, seeing as people seem to be troubled by the ones we've been covering recently. Who shot first? Han Solo or Greedo? You have two options. 6 days and 23 hours. That's going out now. Okay, it's pinned to our profile, so get voting, people. This will be very interesting. I've only given it two options. I know we floated some others.
Yep.
But I didn't want to muddy the
People
waters.
can quote. That's fine. People can quote them.
People can quote and add their options. That is now pinned to our profile.
Cool.
All right. What we are going to do now then, we're going to go to a quick break. And we're going to hear from the chaps over at Generation X-Wing.
Okay.
Who you should be giving your time to because they are wonderful. And when we come back, we will jump into a couple of little bits of Star Wars news.
There are a lot of great Star Wars podcasts out there, but we at the Generation X-Wing podcast discuss things in a unique way. Generation X-Wing podcast takes a look back at pop culture that defines our generation. From movies...
They think he's a righteous dude.
...to TV...
I ain't going to no airport, Hannibal.
...from collecting...
I bet my Wookiee.
...and of course we discuss our wonderful Star Wars universe.
Hello, what have we here?
Come over to the Generation X-Wing podcast with your hosts, Anil Sharma.
That is gonna be a shame.
Josh Whittle.
It was like, that's what trailers should be.
And Rob Williams.
Nailed it.
It is a modern look at your retro lifestyle. Follow us on Twitter at Gen X-Wing, on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on our homepage at generationxwing.com.
If you'd like to support what we do here at Talk Star Wars, you can do so by becoming a TSW sponsor. For as little as £1 per month given securely via PayPal, you can help us keep the lights on here at TSW. When you become a TSW sponsor, we will elevate you to VIP status. As a TSW VIP, you'll get access to an exclusive stream that provides you with fun downloads like HD wallpapers for your desktop, tablet and mobile device, ringtones and text alerts courtesy of our very own audio Jedi at Rob Wade Vision. You'll also receive a monthly newsletter with news about what's going on here at Talk Star Wars, and you'll get a priority release of the new Star Wars audio commentary series called TSW Feature Comms. All this for as little as £1 per month. Head to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become a TSW sponsor today, and the Force will be with you always. And we are back, and we're going to jump into some Star Wars news, starting with the big news that broke this week, at least at the time of recording. We usually manage to miss a couple of big things just as we wrap things up, I notice.
I was just about to append something to this because this story is relevant to something that's just broken in the last couple of hours.
Is this Bob Iger?
I will expand on it. Yes, I'll expand on it once we finish the main piece, but I've got something to add to it.
All right, well, this is about Star Wars, the future of the Star Wars movie. So Bob Iger confirmed this week that Star Wars will have movies past the 2020 date. So at the moment, we're set to see episode 9 drop in 2019, and then there will be a Star Wars story in 2020, but there will be a 2021 Star Wars movie. This is what Bob Iger had to say on the subject. So at a meeting yesterday with Kathy Kennedy, and we mapped out, we reviewed Star Wars plans that we have until 2020. We have movies in development for Star Wars till then, and we started talking about what we're going to do in 2021 and beyond. So, Rob, before we get into placing our bets and what we think is going to come after episode 9, what have you got to add?
So actually, they just confirmed very, very recently that the 2020 movie will be a third anthology story.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same way as Rogue One will be the first, Han Solo will be the second, and then there's a third one to be announced, which is confirmed to be the movie in 2020.
Which has been rumored.
So it's just a kind of it's a refinement of the existing story, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we all kind of knew that was going to be the case.
We suspected as much, yeah. But I don't
We've
think
been speculating that it might have been
concrete.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, that seems to be the most likely one. I'm not sure I would be so keen on that. I would prefer an Obi-Wan movie, personally.
Why is that necessary? Boba Fett, I don't get it.
He's a popular character, Paul, that's about
Phasma, yeah, much like Phasma, it's one of those ones where people are annoyed about how they were used. A cool-looking character who didn't really get used to their full potential. Now, obviously, with Phasma, there's a chance to expand on that in the later movies, but with Boba Fett, his movies have come and gone. So people are very keen to have more because they find Mandalorians and bounty hunters cool.
Okay. Jawas movie.
I don't think you're going to get that, Paul.
Considering
you can keep
the
banging
critical
away.
panning that Ewoks has
The
had,
window
I think
cleaners.
Star Wars might be sure.
So what do we want? What do we want to see then? Let's just play a quick round of what we want to see after what we want to see in 2021. So not
2021. We're
Star Wars
talking
story.
our next trilogy's complete. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So by then, our third saga trilogy is complete.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of people always talk about Ben, but that's a trilogy, isn't it?
I think there's enough scope there. Well,
Yeah,
it
Ben's a
depends, doesn't
trilogy.
it? Well, it depends,
That-
doesn't it? Because if it's a post-Sith, pre-New Hope trilogy, he's kind of restricted to one planet.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. You're right, and I think by
So it's
then
a big place, but
we'd have seen that as well, wouldn't we?
What's
In
that?
the 2020, we'd have had a Star Wars story, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
So
Which
if they're going
could
to
be
do
about Ben.
if they're going to do an Obi-Wan movie, that might be it. It probably will be a Boba Fett movie, but 2021, we're looking at episode 10, right? That's the only.
I don't know. I wonder if they
think
might
that's the only
split
way
it,
forward.
give it a couple of years break.
I'm wondering if they'll do a couple of Star
maybe
Wars
not,
stories
maybe not 10
before
years.
they consider
Maybe
10.
not 10 years like James at Tumbling Saber was saying, but maybe 3 or 4, just to kind of give us a chance to get some other stuff. I think they'll let the kind of the rumbling mill go on a bit after episode 9, depending on what happens in it, obviously, because this is the first time we've had a story where we know there's continuations coming afterwards. Obviously, episode 6 ended, and that was it. And episode 3, we knew that the continuations had already been done, so it's a bit of a different situation. This is the first time we've had a trilogy from the saga where we know there is a place that they plan to explore further, or a timeline rather. That's the thing; it's a huge space to play in. There's no reason why they have to do anything.
There is, and you could really. I mean, I mentioned earlier that I think Rey's bloodline might have something to do with Ezra and Sabine. You could say if you wanted to go James's route and have a decade between episode 9 and episode 10, and then come back and we'll pick up with these characters when they're much older and more established. Great. In the meantime, you could tell a trilogy of stories about Sabine and Ezra and their adventures after Return of the Jedi that leads to them having Rey and dropping her off in Jakku.
Assuming that's what ends up being the case, absolutely. And I think we're going to see certain things be announced after they've told us all the stuff they're going to surprise us with over the course of the next 2 films. Mm-hmm. They know saying there might be a Snoke book or a Snoke comic
once everything's established.
But they won't come until we know the big reveals they're planning. So we'll get the backstory that we that people are curious about but aren't desperate for once we get the stuff we are desperate for. How would you guys feel about an Obi-Wan TV series?
No. Oh no.
No? Okay.
No, because it needs to be Ewan.
Oh no, I agree. But I think TV's got enough prestige now that I think Ewan could do it without any issue.
But it will tie him up too much. He's just had. I mean, his first film has come out. Is it American Pastoral? It's had very mixed reviews. His first directorial outing has had very mixed reviews. But I think that's a sign of what this guy wants to do as a creator. He's not only an actor, but he wants to produce and he wants to direct. And I don't think you can get someone like that and tie him to a TV show.
But you can if they're going to get directing opportunities within the series. Because if you think about, there are some famous TV series that have had really famous movie directors turn up and do episodes. Like
ER had loads.
Yeah,
had loads.
I'm watching ER at the moment, and that's done
I'm watching 30 Rock, and Paul Feig turns up a couple of times as director in the episodes I've watched so far. It's a bloody good series, by the way. I'd recommend it to anybody. But yeah, he turns up, and obviously he's a big deal now as the director. He was handed the keys to Ghostbusters. Now, whether or not they let him keep them, that's a different story. But they put the trust in him to do that film, and to revive that franchise. Again, that's what you like about the results. But I mean, Affleck didn't just jump into directing. He had to kind of get some opportunities. What's his name? William William Peterson, the guy who played Grissom in CSI.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the series, he started directing episodes, and he started getting involved in the production side.
Anthony Edwards did that in ER as well.
Exactly. I think there's opportunity for people who want to get into that side of things to kind of hone certain crafts and to learn from certain people. So if the TV series had a decent pedigree director, I think they could give Ewan McGregor a chance. That would be an incentive for him to do it. And like I say, considering the quality of some of the TV stuff, I mean, Game of Thrones has got this huge production budget. That's had Neil Marshall direct a couple of episodes. I know there's another one, and I feel really bad that I don't remember the name. Some really famous directors.
I wonder where in the run they got those names, though. Because you don't come out the gate. If Game of Thrones had come out and fallen flat on its face, would you have gotten a Neil Marshall?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, he turned up in episode 9 of series 2. He did the Battle of the Blackwater. I mean, that was the first time we saw him in Game of Thrones, as far as I know. Yeah, so obviously, series 1 had already been and gained some success. I don't feel like Game of Thrones was really popular, really blew up until series 3. That was when I started seeing it. It kind of penetrated into popular culture for me, and I was kind of on the fringe of it. So for me to kind of suddenly notice, oh, blimey, everybody's talking about this Game of Thrones. Season 3 felt like when it really kicked off. But Neil Marshall was obviously involved in it before that point because he did the Blackwater battle. He did the one at Castle Black in series 4. You know, he turns up for the big bombastic battles, the big high budget, high action battles because he's good at filming battle scenes ultimately. And the episode's a testament to the quality of his directorial stuff when it comes to that stuff. Tarantino turned up directing CSI. There are, you know, all these options to kind of expand that scope. And like I say, if he's having mixed results from his directorial debut, that's a chance for him to hone his craft and have another go at a film somewhere down the line.
Well, I guess we'll see. I know there's a live action show somewhere on the back burner, but on the back burner.
Yes. Of course there is,
see, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see a live action show. I think it would be fun. And like I said, there's a huge galaxy to play in. You don't have to restrict it to the Saga characters and settings. You can set it anywhere and just have them brush into Saga stuff in passing. Okay,
let's move on to this was a story shared by Joe Crouch, recent VIP at The Word. It's about Star Wars comics. So he shared the news story with us. Jason Aaron and Salvador LaRocca will be developing Yoda stories for the Star Wars comic book series, starting in issue 26, which I think is out shortly. These will be stories about Luke reading extracts from Obi-Wan's journal, telling stories about a pre-Phantom Menace Yoda. So this is what Jason Aaron had to say. I was always trying to figure out a way for us to use Yoda. We're a bit hamstrung in terms of the time period, but our main story, because Yoda's chilling on Dagobah. So this was kind of the only way we could kill all of those birds with one stone. To do one story that connects Luke, Yoda, and Obi-Wan on that trilogy, on my want list, I must point out, for episode 8. Connect them all at the same time whilst taking place in 3 different time periods.
Yeah.
So I've got a mixed history with the Star Wars comics so far. None of them have really caught my imagination. I've tried.
Okay.
But Paul, let's go to you because you seem to be the most removed from this as a platform and as a thing. Would Yoda stories?
Absolutely yes.
And would you read them in a comic book?
I'd be more interested in this than any Ben story. I mean, I know you're crazy for the Obi-Wan thing. Yeah, I said a while ago. I mean, the guy's hundreds and hundreds of years old. You can do what you like here. I'd love to know him. You know, what does a little Yoda look like? What was his training like? Who was his master, by the way?
Don't know if it's ever been established in new canon.
Oh, there you go. That's the story.
No, I don't think it has.
Yeah.
And so, I'd love that. I mean, it was laughable. It was a lifting moment and stuff. But Yoda versus Dooku was interesting in itself. And so, Yoda he's gone one-on-one with standard mortals, for want of a better term. But the whole idea of mixing the timelines up in that situation as well, that's quite intriguing because having played with timelines before.
Extensively.
No, I like the idea of it actually. Yeah, but like you say, comic wise, the story seriously interests me though.
Yeah, the comic books never really work for me. I don't know if maybe I need to read the trade paperbacks so that I get a nice clean run at it. But
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't really work for me. How far back could you see this going?
Ooh.
Into a point. I mean, realistically, we're probably looking at kind of maybe young. Well, it depends, doesn't it? Because we sort of get the impression from watching the prequels that the Jedi have had it a bit cushy up until the point where the Trade Federation blockade starts. So they'd have to go a bit further back to even give them any kind of remotest conflict.
Yeah, because I think there was a tweet come out this week, or there was something come out this week from Pablo saying that the Jedi at the time of the Phantom Menace were more Order than Jedi.
Yeah, this is it.
So it might be interesting to go back a little.
Yeah, they
maybe
were definitely
not the Old Republic.
They're definitely a political entity.
Not that far. They can't go that far.
Rather
Old
than
Republic's still established as 1,000 generations.
Yeah, Paul's right that they were very much a political. They were an extension of the political infrastructure, weren't they? They were the police force.
They're a bureaucratic entity more than anything else.
Which, when you talk about it out loud, makes you dislike them.
But this is it. This is why it's so clever, really. When you think about the prequels and stuff, it does. When you think about it in those terms, you do kind of start to relate to. You do start to relate to Anakin's dilemma. I will say one thing on the comics. Actually, I'm very behind on them. I've read the first, I think, half a dozen issues or so of the main Star Wars thread, and I've read the first half dozen issues of Vader, and Vader is fantastic.
That's wrapping up soon.
Yes, it is. Yeah, the mainline Star Wars one's pretty good. I think this is the best possible use of Yoda in a comic format. I think this is the way they're approaching it is perfect. Having him kind of pop in as an anecdotal thing of like almost like legends within the new canon. All these sort of apocryphal tales almost that may be embellished. We don't know, but I like that idea a lot, and I like the idea that Yoda. I couldn't see Yoda necessarily slotting into his own series right off the bat. He needs to be introduced softly. If they're going to do anything with him in that vein, they need to introduce him softly to start off with. I think. So I think the execution for this one is spot on, absolutely spot on.
Okay, well we will keep an eye on that then. Maybe that'll be the next thing that I dip into it. Issue 26.
I'm not surprised, incidentally, that Joe picks up on it. He's a big comics guy. So he keeps abreast of a lot of that stuff.
I was grateful that he'd sent that to me, actually. It was pretty cool. Yeah, that's the artwork that's in the...
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a great piece of artwork you just shared in the chat there, Paul. All right, let's move on to some Rogue One, a Star Wars story news then.
Never heard of it.
Huge. You would have definitely covered this week, Paul, this story. So Michael Giacchino replaces Alexander Desplat as the composer on Rogue One.
Yeah, apparently Alex hadn't written a note down, had he? From what I understand. No,
well, the official story is that the reshoots pushed the schedule back so far that now Alexander can't.
He was conflicted.
Deliver. Yeah, because he's moving on to another project.
I wonder if maybe he'd recorded some stuff for the scenes that have been redone, and maybe what he'd done didn't quite work anymore. Maybe he'd done some preliminary work, because it seems odd to me that we're 2 months out and he's been replaced so quickly. And he's being replaced at such short notice, and nobody seems concerned. I'm not concerned because I have faith in Disney to do what needed to be done to get the movie out on time and to make it good. But I wonder if he's had some kind of done some basic bits, and maybe what he's done no longer makes sense in the context of the new. If they've changed the tone of the scenes or something.
Was he the temp?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think he was always aimed to be the main guy.
No, what I mean, but they use temp music, don't they, when they start drafting?
I see.
No, it wasn't.
And if he had anything to do with drafting of the temp, I'm just wondering if it was like, okay, this works, pull him in.
I see. Okay, it's a technical term.
How do these things normally work, Paul, with scoring a feature? For
scoring, well, they'll put together obviously their first cut, and they use something called temp music.
Right.
And on many occasions, they'll ask the guy that's scoring to duplicate that with as much flamboyance as they would normally apply. But you see in a lot of films, what's Junkie XL? the Mad Max stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, a lot of that was based on temp stuff. That was
Okay.
they did the shots and they start doing the first cut and they used I've got this temp music. They put it together. Oh man, this works. So they say to Junkie XL, we want you to build a theme based on this piece of music.
Yeah.
And the composers hate it because it's they're artistic. They want to
They want to do something
life
proper
and soul
rather than being
into it.
told, "Oh, your rough cuts will work." Just
apparently, it's
jazz up
happening
your rough
more and
cuts.
more. I mean, I don't know if it happens with the likes of actually, I think Marvel are terrible for it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so I understand. But yeah, I'm just like I say, so I wonder if any of his music was used.
Yeah.
He's primarily a Pixar guy, wasn't he, or something? Did I read that right?
Giacchino is, yeah.
I know he did Jurassic World.
He did
done-
the
I think
Star
he's done-
Trek
yeah,
Star Trek movies,
right.
Ratatouille, Incredibles.
I'm actually catching up now. He
Yeah.
did Doctor Strange. He's done Doctor Strange as well, which is interesting. So
Oh, Giacchino did.
yeah,
Oh, that's really fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think
Super 8.
he might be the only composer that you could wheel in at this at this later stage and might not worry. I'm
Yeah,
not worried
unless
in the
you-
slightest.
Unless you got John.
Unless he's obviously got a schedule as well. So.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. The notes. Sorry, Rob.
No, it's fine. All I was going to say was I wonder if Alexander Desplat made a start on some bits and pieces and maybe kind of left an outline of how he might have approached it, and maybe Giacchino's just kind of come in and got a kind of vibe from that, and then added his own sort of style to it.
I really doubt it.
Okay.
A couple of months ago, Alexander Desplat was spoken to on a red carpet somewhere, and he was asked, "Oh, have you scored anything for Rogue One yet?" And he said no. And it was just about the time that the reshoot thing started. That news broke, and everyone had a little bit of a meltdown over it. And I think it's because, like Paul was saying, they need a rough cut to sit and start working out where you lay your themes in and where you build up your scenes with orchestral underpinning. And I don't think Alexander ever got the opportunity to do that because I don't think they had a rough cut in time.
Yeah.
I'm unsure as to whether or not they have a rough cut now. I mean, it's coming out this year, but what are they really working with? Because they haven't really wrapped that long ago, have they? So Giacchino's come along now. He's probably going to have to put some pretty long hours in to land themes and scores. But I don't think that Alexander had put anything in place for him. And all that stuff we're seeing in the trailer is all temp music, orchestration.
Yeah.
But I don't know until we get.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a tangent. I've gone off at a tangent, but a similar situation. Do you remember King Kong?
Mm-hmm.
Howard Shore was replaced 7 weeks before the film was released.
Oh wow!
To give you an idea, that James Newton Howard came in and scored that in 5 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So it can happen.
It can happen, but you're probably not going to end up with Williams-style themes.
Probably not. No.
Unless Giacchino recycles a lot of what John Williams did.
Which, to be honest, wouldn't hurt the fans. Their immediate identification with certain motifs would just go straight through them and they'd love it, to be honest.
Do you think this might lay the groundwork for him to take over from John Williams, Paul? Giacchino?
Well, speaking romantically, no one can do that. That's impossible.
But
if you're talking a long-term legacy, if you're talking a long-term legacy attached to Lucasfilm with this kind of thing, possibly it depends. It depends. If that's the thing, he's lucky enough to be the next guy on the ladder now, outside John Williams in the Star Wars environment. So if he can cut the mustard on this, he's got quite a gold stamp on his CV, hasn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the studio, if he produces something, the studio are only going to want to stick with what they've got, which works. And so, bearing in mind, Mr. Williams is going to be bowing out gracefully soon, when he could steal the whole lot.
That wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. He's a fantastic composer as well. Just listen to what he did in Star Trek. It's incredible. The opening moments of the first Star Trek movie, try and watch it without the Giacchino score. It don't work.
Not the same.
Okay. 2 posters hit this week.
Yes.
And did they
yeah,
hit?
Yeah, talk about yin yang.
Yeah. The posters for Rogue One, one came out of South Korea, one came out of Japan. We're looking at them right now. You can see them on talkstarwars.co.uk. So let's look at the one from South Korea first. This black one. This has upset mostly everybody that's looked at it, hasn't it?
Upset them. Pretty much. Why is it upset them? It's cheap. Don't get me wrong, but it's not upsetting.
That's why it's upset them, I think.
Okay.
It doesn't look very good.
I mean, has it even been? Did Disney even push these?
Well,
Can we guarantee that?
I wrote a piece about it. They're definitely Disney approved. Definitely Disney approved. They're official.
I don't think they're not Disney produced.
They're not Disney. Well, this is kind of what I covered in my piece on the site. They came out through the official Star Wars Twitter account.
Okay.
So they are definitely official publicity materials. But they're for a completely different market, and that market exists within a completely different culture to the one that we're familiar with.
This is true.
So who knows what social mores these are servicing?
Yeah, this is true.
You don't know
That's
what.
very true.
You know, there are lines that are being walked within different cultures with a strong female lead and what have you. So I don't know what the motivations are behind them. I don't understand them. I think that's probably what most people are troubled by. I'm looking at both of these posters now. One pleases me less than the other, but I don't really understand them. I don't know what the goal is. I don't know what the intent is behind these posters. Kyle pointed out on Tumbling Saber that the black and white one, or the black one with the characters in like that Imperial tube, is from South Korea. Clearly the weakest one of the two, and he pointed out it's been effectively executed within Photoshop.
Yeah.
And Carl would know as a graphic designer, graphic artist.
Yep.
But creatively, it's sort of bereft of any narrative.
It does look a bit sort of Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Machine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like a 50s Western.
They're really poorly lit.
Maybe that's the kind of cultural thing. Is like certain movie posters of when it's that kind of tone and that kind of story. Maybe they do kind of look to it as that kind of style. This is you're absolutely right, Mark. We're transplanting our kind of cultural opinions of these things, and also we're kind of taking certain things for granted about tech. That we're kind of assuming that certain things are more prevalent than maybe they are. In terms of what tech is available and how widely it's used and stuff.
What do you mean in terms of tech, Rob?
Well, I mean, I'm not familiar with kind of South Korean tech culture. I know they've obviously got some huge companies over there. Things like Samsung's a South Korean company, isn't it?
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm just wondering if the things like Photoshop and stuff are that widespread and that widely used in that context. I'm not really sure.
So they'll be less inclined to point out that this is poorly thought out.
Because maybe in the context of other movie posters, it's not. This is it. I'm not really sure whether that's the case or not. It's difficult to say. I guess. Yeah. And so I'm kind of with you. Like I say, I'm kind of with you on that one. It's a difficult one to.
What about the less disturbing of the two posters? The one from Japan.
Oh,
that's really nice. Yeah,
I like that a lot. It's subtle. The colouring is nicely blended.
It juxtaposes.
I don't know if the cloud thing is a bit too heavenly, frankly.
Yeah, but it does juxtapose nicely that kind of tranquil beach setting with this huge looming threat.
Yeah.
In the background.
It's a really cool contrast. Oh look, super weapon, beautiful lagoon.
Yeah. I did put in the article I wrote on the website that I thought this was the lesser of two evils here. Still not entirely on board with it, but I would like to see the theme explored more with character posters. Like I'd like to see all the rogues in this setting with the Death Star behind them.
I quite like her because her fatigue colouring goes with the beach, and so does the lettering underneath. It does.
She really stands
blend.
out, doesn't she?
She stands out, but she also follows the beach, the colour, the beige of the sand against the gold colouring, the lettering and so on. That works, frankly.
I guess if you explore that, because I did some time with graphic design at college as well, and I think if you kind of if you explore that a little bit further, you could kind of say that the earth tones that she's got and the natural setting that she's firmly planted within are in direct opposition to that technological monstrosity on the horizon.
Yeah.
And it's George's theme of the Viet Cong versus the American war machine.
Yeah.
It's that thing kind of encapsulated in this one image, isn't it? Clumsily.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of that type of thing where she's this natural earthy thing, and in the distance is this unearthly thing that she needs to defeat.
Yes.
That's what we saw play out with the Ewoks on Jedi, or on Endor in Jedi, and that's kind of what we're seeing here.
Rob was there.
Clumsily.
Yep.
Still not perfect, but I guess out of the two posters, that would be the one that I would
Of the
choose.
two, I like it better. Yeah, for sure.
Ruffled a lot of feathers, though, that. Ruffled a lot of feathers. Okay, this is going to be our last story of the evening, and then we're going to wrap up.
Right, cool.
Episode 8, potential spoilers, but although not really. Billy D. Williams. So Billy D. thinks Star Wars creators should leave Lando alone, unless, of course, he plays him.
Right.
And then that's fine, apparently. What Billy D said at the prospect of Lando returning in a Han Solo movie in the form of Donald Glover. This is Billy D's statement. I don't know who Donald Glover is, but as far as I'm concerned, I would say they, Star Wars producers, should leave the character alone. I don't think they can do any more than what I did with the character. I think I made that character into something special, and I can't imagine anybody else doing it, to be very frank with you. Billy says modestly.
Modestly, yeah.
Then when asked if he would return as a scoundrel, he said, yeah, if they wanted me to do it, I'd be very happy to do it. So I'm not so sure that that's really in keeping with the thing he's just said about.
Timeline issues.
Everything's been done.
Up,
yeah, he'd do it as an old man, but I don't know if anyone could bring that kind of quality I brought to any of those characters I've played. Goodness me.
No, that's the arrogance is.
It's astounding, isn't it?
Yeah, but there you go. It is what it is.
I can see a kind of. I sort of want to get where he's coming from, probably more than I actually do, but I do want to understand. I can sort of see how if you're a creator of a persona, then you're going to be hesitant to give the reins over to somebody else doing that job. Right now, obviously, Harrison Ford is handing over the reins to Han Solo, but Harrison Ford is never playing Han Solo again, from what we understand. And based on the evidence in front of us, we can assume safely there is a good chance he won't return in that character. So for him, he's also, the other thing to bear in mind as well is Han Solo has a very much bigger body of work, whereas Billy D. Williams is Colt Mort Liquor and Lando Calrissian.
You mean Harrison Ford has a bigger body of work?
That's what I said.
You said Han Solo.
Yeah, all right, fine. Okay, yeah, Harrison Ford, sorry, yeah.
You've never seen them in the room together.
This is true.
True.
Whereas Billy D. Williams, for me, is Colt Mort Liquor and Lando Calrissian, and not really much else. He had the odd sort of appearance as himself in things like Scrubs and stuff, but there's not really been he hasn't really got another character to his, something that iconic at least. He doesn't have a Mark Hamill voice acting career. He doesn't have the Carrie Fisher guest appearances and loads of stuff.
No Indiana Jones.
No Indiana Jones. No, obviously, I mean, even Warwick Davis has been more prolific in terms of characters played, and he had a very minor role in Star Wars comparatively, and obviously he didn't have his face exposed either.
Yeah,
I can see why he'd be a bit defensive about the character the only character he really can sort of own as his own that's kind of endured over multiple films.
I get that, and it's kind of like for the longest time, Captain Kirk was only played by Shatner. And you would think that somebody would want to jealously defend that as their territory. But I would say that this whole thing boils down to one line. If they can recast Han, they can recast Lando.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, he's not off limits. And
no, absolutely not. And I mean, it's very much, Billy D's just saying what he thinks they should do. He's not saying by any means that's the only thing I'll ever accept. It's just his opinion on how the direction of the character should go, and his direction is he thinks that should be, that can exist in a kind of in its own right, and there doesn't need to be any more there before or after. That's all. That's what he's kind of saying. I mean, obviously, like you say, he's delivering it in a bit of a ham-fisted, comes across slightly up himself way.
I'm reading. I was the only one that wasn't called back for episode 7, so shove it.
But this is the thing, episode 8.
No, that's what I'm reading. That's all sour. Seriously.
You reckon?
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it reads almost scratchy.
Okay.
He's put a few nice words in there, but
yeah,
come on.
I can see him coming back for episode 8. I really could.
I mean,
there is storyline scope for him to come in for episode 8.
He didn't even have that big a part.
Whether or not he will, I don't know.
Lando isn't that big in the great scheme of things.
He's pretty important.
He's in the last third of Empire, and he's in the first third in the last 10 minutes.
In terms of screen time, but he's the only person other than Chewbacca that Han trusts to do anything. And that's coming from a character who starts off being somebody who betrays him completely, but he has this complete turnabout of character, this complete about face of his kind of morality.
And don't get me wrong, I want to see more of him, because I want to see these two scoundrels playing poker and losing and winning the Falcon backwards and forwards like Fury.
Yeah.
But I want to see Donald Glover or someone doing it now.
I would agree.
Yeah, we can't be beholden to this.
No, I agree. I don't think they should, by any means, kind of kowtow to him. I can understand his point of view.
I mean, if he gets a bit part in episode 8 or 9, fine.
Yeah.
But
But
allow this to bloom. I think.
And like I say, I'm reading
something really cool.
When I'm reading this, I don't necessarily think it would stop. I don't think the casting of Donald Glover as a young Lando would stop Billy Dee coming back in episode 8. I don't think it would. I don't think it would put him off. It's purely just, I don't know. He might change his tune completely once if I went to set and I met Donald Glover and I watched him doing this scene and he's nailed it. We might see that later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it might work in his favour at the end of the day by shining a big light on the character that he's best known for.
Sure.
It might serve him well on the convention circuit.
It could also later on. It could end up giving Donald Glover a huge rub if Billy Dee gives him the nod of approval after initially saying he doesn't get it. If he has a change of heart, that could be a massive PR push for Donald Glover as young Lando. Should they go down that route, it may all be cynical marketing. This is it. Who knows?
Who knows? Okay.
Yeah.
With that said, let's wrap this up. Then it's the end, I think, of episode 42. Talk Star Wars. So thank you very much for listening to us again this week, guys. Don't forget, if you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, you can take advantage of the Ron Burgundy guarantee. That is, whatever you write in our review, I will read it, as long as it's not full of hate or foul language, because after all, we are a family show. So if you want to promote your own blog or your own podcast, that's the place to do it. You can also email us your questions and comments to talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. Like Ads did earlier on in this episode, email us your audio files and get your voice into the show. Or you can reach out to us on one of our many social networks. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Tumblr. We are just about everywhere. And with that said, guys, where can people find you between shows?
You're up, mate. Every time we do this, Paul, I'm not going to back down on this. You're going first.
Okay. I'm Paul at Movie Score News, moviescorenews.com, Movie Score News this, Movie Score News that. I'm Movie Score News.
See, wasn't that how easy was that?
Come and say hi.
So I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Rob Wade Vision, and I have a blog, Emotionally14, emotionally14.com. There's Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, podcasts. There's the whole spectrum of entertainment there.
Superb. Steve can be found, even though he's not here this evening, at Wild About Nature on YouTube and on Twitter is Stephen_Ware, but I'm sure if you search for Wild About Nature, you will find him. I am at Talk Star Wars on Twitter, and you can find everything else I do at talkstarwars.co.uk. So, like I said earlier, don't forget to leave us a nice 5-star review in iTunes if you haven't done so already. You can also explore the Star Wars Commonwealth and look into the podcast provided by Tumbling Saber and Generation X-Wing. You can find also links to the network in the show notes. Don't forget to download the show notes from the description to this episode on whatever platform you are listening to it on. That's us done. It's a wrap for 42. We will see you guys next week.
Take care.
May the force be with you.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.